rice cookers. I think it might be time to test fire and turn over this engine. So let's change the oil filter and put some fresh oil in it and get a battery in here and see what happens when I turn the key. Because it's possible that when I turn the key nothing's going to happen because it's an automatic chassis and the car probably thinks it's in park. No, sorry, it's the opposite. The car probably thinks it's out of park, which means it won't allow the ignition to turn over. But we'll see what happens. Let's get this old filter off of here. New filter. Gonna go with an HKS unit, HP 1010. I guess that's the part number. It's got NASCAR on it, so you know it's fast. Before we slap this on, we'll get some oil on the O-ring, because that's necessary. And if you don't do that, fuck you. There we go. Doesn't need to be very tight. I guess now it's time to get some lubricating nectar in this engine. We're going to go with some Valvoline full synthetic 530 and see how it operates on that. I might need to go to a Seger oil. Maybe not. Guess we'll find out. So let's get some oil in this. I think it's about a 4.2 litre capacity, but this engine's been completely turned upside down and emptied and drained and, you know, had the oil pump replaced, so all the galleries are bone dry, which means it's probably going to take an extra litre. So we're probably looking at more like 5.5, 5.2. Go with that. And with that, we are just above the full line, which is perfect. Let's get a battery in here. So the ECU is currently disconnected. Hopefully we get no bangs or pops or anything dodgy happening. Okay, so that's the positive. And that's the negative. Okay. Nothing bad's happened yet. That's good. Okay, no smoke yet. Let's see what happens when we hit the ignition. What was that noise? Let's disconnect the negative. So I need the car to think it's in park. That plug down here connects up to this right here, which is the selector for automatic park drive, blah, 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 blah. In park position, which is the top position, which I think I've got this in now. Okay, so that's park position, which means this switch should be looped, grounded, back on itself. So what I'm going to try to do is just put a jumper in the end of that plug, and hopefully that'll trick the signal to the ignition into thinking that the car's in park, or it'll start a fire or make something explode. Either way, let's give it a go. Okay, I've just got a piece of ground wire off the loom, and I'm just going to jump from one side to the other, and then we'll see if anything explodes. Hopefully not. Alright, get this terminal back on. Anything smoking on fire yet? No? And the ignition lock's still on. So it obviously thinks it's not in park. God, that sounds annoying. Alright, back to the drawing board. Okay, so this big blue plug on the top here is for your automatic, and I've used the wiring diagram from Honda to find that a wire that is black blue, which is this top one up here, it is next to a white one and a green yellow on the top. And I've bridged into the back of it with this and then ran this down to ground. And when I do that, the park light on the cluster up here shows up. So I think I found my park signal wire for the switch. So let's have a look. Okay. So we're seeing a park light. That's with it grounded. Oh, okay. So the ignition's giving my key back now. Okay. So what else is stopping it from starting now? I don't fucking know anymore. So I've done some digging through the workshop manual. I'll have a link for it in the description. You want to go to page 54. You're looking for something called a starter cut relay. And that will give you an idea of where to start tracing wires. Also a big thanks to Scott here in New Zealand and Aaron for brainstorming with me last night. That was helpful. But I found the wire here on the back side of the ignition, this one. This is black with a white stripe. We trace it further back. So if you trace these wires back from the ignition, they go underneath the fuse box up here, and they come down to the floor to this main relay here. And looking at the wiring diagram, we've got a black with white, and a black with white, and a black with red, and a gray. And the wiring diagram tells me that I'm looking for two black and white wires. One coming out is black and red, which is this one here. And then the gray wire should be the neutral position switch or the clutch safety switch. So if you were going to run a clutch safety switch, you would take this gray wire and put it into the switch to ground on that circuit. But I am not. So what I'm going to do to test to see if this is what's causing my no start issue is to pull off some of this anti-tamper plastic shit and see if I can ground this wire and get the engine to turn, or at least the starter to get signal. Yeah, there we go. Okay, with that off, should be able to get to the back of that gray wire and take it to ground. Alligator clip to the back of this. Plug that in. And then we'll go to ground here. Cool. Now that should be enough for us to test this. Now I've still got this clip here. This is for the actual park signal wire. This should allow me to remove the key out of the ignition. So we'll ground that as well. And let's test this theory out. Oh shit! That was it. It was just that gray wire. Woo! How about that? Key comes out of the ignition. Epic. Oh, what up? Battery's absolutely packed, but starter circuit's working. Fuck yeah. That's got it, at least the starter circuit working. Now we need to turn over to the ECU side of things. So that means loading some software on the laptop here and probably registering some stuff. Not really sure. So the first thing we need to download is K-Manager. Okay, we're going to head to hondata/software, click on KPro Manager, save that file. Yep, just open it, wait for it to pop up. You can check for new versions if you like, otherwise just tick next. Accept all of their shit. It says here, I consent to having my mouth sewn to the ass of another person. Okay, as long as I get a case swap, no worries. Yep, we'll agree to that. Follow those on-screen prompts. Finish, run the software. It'll take a second to boot up. And the first message we're going to be met with is probably something like USB drivers are not there or they're not correct. So I want to head back to Hondata's website. Scroll down to USB drivers, KPro. Same thing again, save file. Open the exe. Follow the on-screen prompts, just next, 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 and yes, you're done. Then you're going to need to reboot the computer. Once rebooted, you should be able to go to control panel and see the KPro ECU there, and when you unplug it, it should disappear and come back. Okay, we now got KPro showing up. The reason why I probably didn't get prompted for a install driver or anything like that is because I did it before plugging it in. So yeah, ECU, computer are now talking. So that means we can move on to the next step, which is probably plugging this into the car and loading a base map. So that should be fun to figure out. Next thing to do would be to load a base map on this. So that's what we're going to do. Let's see if it'll start. Get the ECU plugged in. Right here. All plugged in. Now let's just jump over and see what we're looking at on the computer side of things. Battery system's reading 12.7 volts up there. We've got driver installed. The line's on from here to here. The ignition is saying off. Okay, let's turn the ignition on. We got 12.7. Down the bottom left it says driver installed, online, and ignition on and off. Every time you see the cluster flash back and forth, it's flickering between ignition on and off. I can't upload a base map without the ignition on, and I'm now just starting to figure out that there's something wrong with the ignition. Oh, okay, so it's not showing as the ignition on. That's weird. Okay, so we're getting fuel through. What's going on with my ignition switch? It should be able to stay at the priming location. Okay, well, we just had one fire. And we're reading 12.2. And I got a fuel leak too. Okay, so this car sometimes had a problem with the ignition cycling, and I wasn't really sure what it was. I thought it might have been a main relay, but since getting the swap done, see, it doesn't go to on position, only when I go to start position, but it doesn't sit in a ignition on position. It's reading like the key's not there. So I think there's something wrong in the ignition switch on this. So unfortunately, I can't even get the key to a position to upload the tune. It's tried to start already, so there must be some sort of base map on there, probably a K21. Gotta fix the key system, the ignition. Okay, so we've got one leak here on that threading for the gauge. By cycling the ignition a few times, I've got it to stay in the on position, and it's reading ignition on. 12 volts just. I need a better setup than this. I need a new battery, and probably to have the car on charge. Okay, I think I fixed the leak on the gauge for the fuel pressure regulator. The ignition seems to be holding on just fine, and I've got a battery hooked up to... Sorry, I've got a battery hooked up to the charger, so now I'm just going to see if I can upload this tune, and see what we can do about base pressure for that fuel pressure regulator, and seeing if this will start. When you click new calibration, you'll be given a bunch of base maps. For me, I'm under other vehicles, because I'm using K24. I'm going down to the stock one, selecting that, and clicking OK. Next, you want to find the upload changes arrow, click on that. You should get a fuel pump priming cycle when you click it. And it's just in the middle of uploading. As soon as I clicked upload, it went through a fuel pump priming ignition cycle, and thankfully it stayed with the ignition on. Saving calibration. Cool. There's definitely some stuff missing. There is going to be vacuum leaks. Probably won't run anyway, but gonna give it a go. Well, holy shit. Rev much? God damn. Whew. Ignition is still cutting off. I wonder what fuel pressure we have there. Not enough. I think we want it up around 40 psi base. See what that is. That's about right. Well, this thing would be running now if it wasn't for this ignition switch failing in here. Whew. It stinks in here. Yeah. Well, shit. Well, as you can see, if I play around with the ignition after I've started it, it will continue to run. So what I have is a broken ignition switch, I believe. This is what failed. Big thanks to Aaron. Let's see if we can get this fitted, tested. It's kind of late at night, so probably shouldn't run the car, but we might. Okay, with the door chime being held off, basically what should be happening here is that when I get to this position, the dash should light up and I should have the fuel system priming, and then the next position is start, and then back to on. I'm getting no on position. So let's replace this switch and see if we get on. These are the screws here to take the ignition switch off. This is a kind of an exposed terminal here, so I'm going to disconnect the battery before I play around with any of this. Okay, got the battery disconnected. Okay, next we have to take off this plug here, which is underneath the fuse box. Oh, god damn. And then the next one is just here. Right there. So, new one goes in. Wiring looks the same, that's good. Like that. And then the next plug places that one up top. This one here. And that should be a new switch. Well, new used. Same way you pulled it apart. Line it up with its little notch in the barrel. Like so. Redo up those screws. And we'll test this. Alright, we got the battery hooked up. So we should get... Beauty! See, that's what it should be doing. Now the ignition's staying on. And we don't have any of that annoying door chime. So, if I start this, it's probably going to keep running and it'll be really, really fucking loud. Oh, park switch has stopped working. Okay, yeah, we got park lighting up on the dash now. I lost connection with the ground. And it comes out. So, ignition's working. Okay, so a quick recap. This plug that's up the top that was going to the selector doesn't need to be plugged in. The one that does need sorted is this one up here, which is black and blue, which I'll show you in the instructions manual on screen. So page 562, we look down on wire terminal number 5 from the dash. That is black, blue, and park on a gauge assembly that goes to 8, which is also black, blue to the gear position switch. Ground that wire. That needs to go to ground, which I've got down to here. The other one that you need to take care of is this one in here. And that's the gray wire down here that I've tapped to ground here. Black and white, black and white, black and red. Those instructions will also be on screen. Once you have that one grounded, you have this one grounded, then your automatic CRV with a manual swap should start. And we've just solved the ignition problem. So now that we've got that solved, let's have a quick look at the heater core functionality, see if it's working. Okay, so that's cold. That's all the way hot. All the way cold. Oh, that's gonna do it. Engine's running. Pretty big milestone. Kinda smells like fumes in here, so probably get the hell out. Big thanks to Scott and Aaron. Cheers, and see you on the next one. Make sure you subscribe. Bitches.